All right, fifth graders, good evening. I found myself in a slightly different place tonight because I was getting sleepy while I was reading my other book. So I found a space where it's a little bit brighter and I could sit and focus a little bit. So find yourself a comfy spot, somewhere you can enjoy the reading. Last time in our read aloud, we met Danny and his parents, Mr. and Mrs. Dragonbreath. They are very different, as you guys pointed out. Mrs. Dragonbreath seems a little grumpy, definitely not a morning person. And Mr. Dragonbreath is very excited and happy, maybe a little bit disappointed because Danny still can't breathe fire. And a lot of you predicted that that would be a problem going forward. So we're going to see what happens. Snorkel bats. Danny stood at the bus stop and waited, which is what one generally does at bus stops. Under normal circumstances, he would have been restless. Danny hated standing still for anything. It was just dragonish nature. Dragons slept on their hoards, they fought knights, they occasionally flew around terrorizing peasants, but they didn't usually stand still. It's worth noting that Danny's parents had never terrorized a peasant in their lives, and Danny's mother always volunteered to bring goodies to the school bake sale. But really, it was the principle of the thing. While he waited, Danny thought about the dream he'd had last night. It certainly beat thinking about the lecture he'd gotten this morning. It had been the most wonderful dream. Something about a pirate ship and Captain Dragonbreath. Wendell had been in it. He definitely remembered that. As if the thought had summoned him, Danny's best friend, Wendell, trudged up the sidewalk to the bus stop. Wendell was a green iguana, although he was a much more grayish green than Danny. He wore thick glasses and an expression that said he expected the worst to happen at any moment. "Hey," said Danny. "Hi," said Wendell. Pleasantries concluded, they stood and waited for the bus. "I had a dream last night that we were pirates," said Danny. "Pirates?" Wendell shoved his glasses up his snout. "What kind of pirates?" "I don't know," said Danny. "The usual kind, I guess." Wendell rolled his eyes. "Privateers? Rum runners? Smugglers?" Danny sighed. Wendell sometimes had a tendency to overthink things. Pirates! You know, yo-ho, avast me hearties, all that." "What does avast mean? Anyway, I've always wondered." "Hey, look, the bus," said Danny. The bus pulled up with a roar and a hiss as the brakes released a sound rather like the one Danny's Uncle Mortimer made after Thanksgiving dinner. Danny and Wendell climbed on and sat in their usual seat. Forgot to make this full screen, sorry. Avast. You know, like, avast-ish thing. "You have no idea, do you?" "So," said Wendell, with the air of one who already knows the answer, "did you get your science paper done?" "Nope," said Danny cheerfully, pulling a notebook out of his backpack. "I'm gonna do it right now." Wendell draped himself over the back of the seat. "You've got 15 minutes. Isn't that cutting it a little close?" "I do my best work under pressure," said Danny. "Anyway, I've got a secret weapon." "What's that?" "You." All right, I'm going to pause here, and this is going to be question number 1. Here we see that Danny and Wendell have very different approaches to schoolwork. I want you to just write for number 1 or record for number 1. Which character are you more like and why? Are you more like Danny or are you more like Wendell? So go ahead and take a second. Go over to Seesaw. You can pause the video now. And now you should be back having answered the question, which character are you more like, Wendell or Danny? Wendell sighed. "You haven't done anything on it at all." Danny shrugged. "I was going to work on it this morning," he said, "but Dad wanted to give me fire breathing lessons before he went to work." Wendell raised an eyebrow. And?
And how did it go?
Danny rubbed at the back of his neck. Same as it ever does. He considered telling Wendell about the morning's lecture, but decided against it. For one thing, Wendell always applied himself, even in gym class, where he was completely hopeless. You couldn't say he wasn't trying. In fact, it was usually rather embarrassing just how hard he was trying. For another thing, if he didn't hurry, he wasn't going to get his paper done. Never mind about the fire breathing. Now, quick, tell me everything you know about the ocean. Wendell sighed again. For a fairly small iguana, he had an astonishing lung capacity.
It's big, it's wet, it's salty.
That's all you've got? Danny stared at him.
It's got fish in it.
Danny groaned. You don't know anything else about the ocean? What kind of a nerd are you?
I'm not a marine iguana. Anyway, my paper was about bats.
Danny tapped the pencil against the end of his snout. Are there any bats that live in the ocean?
Not unless they wear little snorkels, no.
Ooh, snorkels! That's perfect, Wendell. Danny began to write furiously. The rare and elusive snorkel bat. You'll notice this little star here. If you come down here, it tells you. It says completely a figment of Danny's imagination. So he is making this up. This wily bat left the air for the cool green depths of the ocean. When not relaxing on the beach, drinking tropical drinks with the little paper umbrellas, the snorkel bat plays in the surf, builds little sandcastles, and goes diving.
Tell me you're not putting that in there.
What? Just because you've never seen a snorkel bat? You'd never seen a dragon either, until you met me. Okay, we're going to pause here. This is part graphic novel and part just a regular chapter book. And so I want you to just take a minute and do a quick reflection. How do the pictures in this book help or make the story better? You could also say enhance the story. So how do the pictures in this book enhance the story or make it better? Pause the video, go over to Seesaw and answer number 2. Okay, so you should be back now, and you should have answered the question, how do the pictures in this book enhance or make better the story? 15 minutes later, the bus let them out in front of the Herpetax Phibius School for Reptiles and Amphibians. It was a low brick building with a playground to one side and a number of large rocks for sitting and sunning oneself.
I still can't believe you're had to get a paper on snorkel bats,
muttered Wendell. Worrywart, said Danny. I bet Mr. Snog doesn't even read these. He just grades on length. Wendell shrugged. He'd known Danny for over a year, ever since the Dragon's family had moved into the neighborhood, and he knew better than to argue. And we're going to go ahead and pause there. I'm not going to do any other questions, just those two. And then tomorrow we will continue with chapter 3, which is called Food Fight. I hope you guys are enjoying the book so far. And I will talk to you guys soon. I look forward to seeing your answers.